All right, guys, let's go over the rest of, let's go over the rest of this. So we have, I can simplify by expanding with distributive property. Distributive property, remember, means we're doing that rainbow, and we're doing this times this and this times this. This is an outlier. We do not do anything with that. All we do is bring it down until we can use it. When I'm distributing, you only distribute what is in on the outside of this parenthesis directly next to it with what's inside it, okay? 8 times 3, 24, keep the x. A -8 times a -7 is a positive 56 plus x. Then you go back just like we did up at the top and we combine our terms that are alike. And your final answer should be negative 23x plus 71. Because I combined my 15 and my 56. And then I put that here as my 71. And I have my negative 24 and my positive x, which means you're actually subtracting. You get negative 23x. Remember we talked about how to do this with fractions. I said you can either get rid of the fraction or you can just leave it as this. So you still have that 3 on the bottom, okay? This one is a you try because it is a fraction. I want you to try that. Over here, it's the same thing that we did on this side. You're still using your distributive property, okay? And then you combine your like terms. So guess what this is? This is also a you try. So if you have to stop the video to take a picture, then that's what I would like you to do. Good. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to the back. We're going to look at what we need to do to solve the one on the problems on the back. So the first one is asking us to determine what the first step is. What is the correct step that we need to take? Do we need to subtract 33 from both sides? Do we need to add 33 to both sides? Do we need to add 3 and 5/10 to both sides? Or do we need to multiply both sides by a negative 3 and 5/10? Well, if you think about two-step equations, the first thing you have to do is either add or subtract. So right there, I know that it's either going to be A, B, or C. Now, looking at the problem, if the x is with a number, whether it's above it as a fraction or next to it as a multiplication, you cannot do anything with it. We always deal with our constant first. Because we deal with our constant first, your answer has to be A. You have to add or subtract the constant first. Then you do your multiplication, your division. Over here, so we're doing two-step linear equations. I'm still going to subtract 17 from both sides. Now, because the problem is written differently, what is common as a mistake is to subtract the 10. Do not do that. You look for the side of the equal sign that has the variable. The variable is over here, which means I am focusing on this first. This constant is first. 10 take away 17 should give you a negative 7. Then you're going to multiply both sides by a negative 9. Because remember, you're taking that 9 with it. So you're multiplying it by the reciprocal. The reason I just said negative 9 is because there's a 1 there. So once we actually put a 1, the number automatically just becomes its whole number. So either way, they cancel out. So then we have negative 7 times a negative 9. You get a positive 63 because a positive times a positive is a negative times a negative is a positive. Same sign, positive answer when you're multiplying and when you're dividing. So then they want us to solve the equation from number 9. Well, we've already done something similar to that on the other side. So what I don't want to do is waste our time, because what we need to do is we need to get through this entire front page. So when we get down to here, the multi-steps, I'm going to go a little bit slower. The 1 step and 2 steps, That is stuff we did in 7th grade, and it was review again in 8th grade. Multi-steps, we, I guess, focused more on that in this, I would say in 8th grade, but I don't want to take the entire 10 minutes going back over 1 and 2 step equations, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump down here to number 13. Number 13, which of the following shows the equation after it has been simplified? So the first thing you should do is find out what it would look like when it is simplified. When I simplify it, I have -2 and I have a positive 16, which I'm going to end up with a positive 14. Then I look at my x. I have a positive 9x and a positive x. When I add them together, I get 10x. And I keep the equal sign and the number. It didn't say to solve. It just says which one is the answer for after, like after you simplify it. So is it this one, or this one? Well, we just answered it. So it's this one. It's A. So let me scroll it down. Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all couldn't see that one, could you? I'm up here talking to you. You couldn't even see it. Let me zoom in a little bit more because I don't think that that's zoomed in enough for you to be able to see here. There we go. Okay. So let's look at one of these multi-step equations. Hopefully the paper doesn't slide off my table here. So the ones I'm going to look at those two. So right here, the first thing I need to do is combine my terms before I can even start. I have a -4 and a positive 17. That's going to be 13. Then I have a positive W and a -2/3 W. Well, remember, anything in front of a variable that does not have a coefficient, we assume there's a 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. So you can actually write this still as a fraction. So then I have a positive 1 minus 2. So what you're going to do is, we'll do 3/3 because I don't want to confuse you. 3/3 equals 1. So 3 minus 2 is just 1, right? So let me move this down. So that's just 1. And then the denominator is going to stay the same. Keep my W equals 16. Now I have a two-step equation that I can work with. I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides. I'm going to bring down my -1/3 W. So we have 16 minus 13, which is 3. Then I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And I still keep that negative. So W is going to equal 3 times -3 is a -9. So when we divided, let's make sure we've got this right. Yeah. So let's look at this one. Let me slide it over just a little bit. Let's combine the terms that are alike. We have a -12 plus a 7.5 or 7 5/10. Remember, when you have a decimal, what you need to do is add a decimal to the number that does not have one. When you add the decimal, you just put 12, then you put your decimal point and you put a 0, 12.0. Then you can do, 12.0 and 7.5. Okay, so if I did -12.0 minus 7.5, I'm sorry, plus 7.5, I'm sorry. Did I get that right? Plus 7.5, because that is a positive, correct. So plus 7.5, you should get a -4 and 5/10. So what I said to do was put a decimal here, then line them up and subtract. I can't take from there. That goes to 10, that goes to 1, that 1 goes to 0. Okay, so I have negative 4 and 5/10 C minus, we have a negative 4 and a negative 11. Same sign, add. Now I have a two-step equation I can work with. Add 15 to both sides. Negative 4 and 5/10 C equals, you have negative 6 plus 15 should give you a 9. When I divide both sides by a negative 4 and 5/10, C is going to equal 2. So we have a positive divided by a negative, which means my answer is a negative. If you have any questions about this, and like I said, I know I went through this pretty quickly. You can slow it down if you need to. I'm trying to make sure that each video is only 10 minutes maximum, just so that we can get to everything we need to get to before you attempt the assignment. The next 2 videos are going to be about functions.